Hey everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. You know how we do things here. We take one fascinating topic and unpack it. And today, we're going to be looking at the connection between nature and how kids think and learn.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing,
Like,
actually.
does being out in nature actually make kids smarter?
Well, that's what we're going to find out, right?
Exactly.
Hmm.
So, for this deep dive, we dug into a whole bunch of research. We're talking a systematic review that brings together all these different studies on how nature, or Greenspace, as scientists like to call it,
Yeah.
impacts the cognitive abilities of school-age kids and teenagers. So we're talking 5 to 18.
Yeah.
And, we want to give you the core of what we learned. No need to wade through tons of research papers yourself.
Right,
We
yeah.
did the heavy lifting for you. We want to make sure we're looking at solid evidence, so this review focused on experimental and what are called quasi-experimental studies.
Yeah, so like really well-designed studies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's not just for, the scientists out there. This is for everyone. If you're a parent, if you're an educator, or if you're just curious about how our surroundings shape how we think, you're in the right place.
That's right.
So the research looked at all kinds of ways that kids interact with nature. We're talking outdoor learning, green playgrounds, nature walks, even just having plants in the classroom.
Right, or like a view of trees from a window.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And these experiences, they weren't all the same. Some were super short, some were longer, some were just about being in nature, while others involved actively engaging with it.
Exactly, yeah.
So should we jump right into the findings?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's see what the evidence tells us.
Okay. So what we found is there's a lot of support for this idea that being around nature can actually boost those really important cognitive functions,
Right.
especially things like attention and memory.
Yeah, which is like so crucial for, for learning and just like functioning in everyday life, right?
Absolutely. It's huge.
Yeah.
So let's dive into this a little more. Before we get into the specifics, it's important to consider the context of how a lot of kids are living today. They're spending a ton of time indoors,
Mm.
a lot of screen time. More people are living in cities, so there are fewer opportunities for natural experiences.
Right, that like unstructured playtime outside that maybe we had more of when we were kids.
Exactly. And this got some researchers thinking, could this reduced contact with nature actually be negatively impacting their well-being? Like, are they more stressed,
Yeah.
more fatigued?
Mm.
And could that then lead to problems with focus and thinking?
I think there is a growing concern that it might be connected to those rising rates of mental health issues that we're seeing in young people.
Yeah, that's a good point. So then scientists started investigating this idea of nature as a way to, like, restore our mental resources,
Right.
almost like a healing power of nature.
Yeah, it's like nature can help us bounce back from the kind of mental fatigue that we experience in our everyday lives.
Exactly. So it's not just about feeling good in nature, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's some pretty fascinating theories about why nature might actually have this impact on our brains.
Yeah.
So let's talk about a couple of these. One of the big ones is called the biophilia hypothesis. What's that all about?
So the biophilia hypothesis, basically it was developed by this biologist named E.O. Wilson, and it suggests that humans have this deep-seated, like innate need to connect with nature.
Okay.
The thinking is that throughout evolution, our survival really depended on that connection with nature, right?
Yeah.
Like we needed to understand plants and animals for food and shelter.
Totally.
And so this idea is that inherent draw to the natural world is still with us.
Like, it's in our DNA.
Yeah, and so when we do connect with nature, it actually eases some of the mental strain that we experience in our daily lives, and it strengthens our overall sense of well-being.
Like, our brains are just wired to feel more comfortable and to work better in natural settings.
Exactly. Like
Yeah.
it's our natural habitat.
It makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like, when you're out in nature, you just feel,
Yeah.
like, more relaxed.
You feel more at peace.
Yeah. So, okay, we got the biophilia hypothesis. Now, there's another one called attention restoration theory, or ART for short. That one's kind of a mouthful.
Yeah.
So how does RT explain this connection?
So RT proposes that natural environments have this unique quality. They evoke what's called soft fascination.
Okay.
Think about like the gentle movement of leaves or the sound of a breeze. It's engaging, right?
Yeah.
But it's not demanding on our direct focus.
Like you don't have to concentrate on it.
Exactly.
Okay.
It's just there.
And so this kind of gentle attention, it allows our brains to take a break from that really intense, goal-oriented focus that we're often using in built environments.
Right, like when we're in a classroom or you're on a busy street, you're constantly having to
Filter out distractions.
pay attention to this, that, and the other thing. It's very demanding.
And so this mental break that nature provides allows our attentional resources to replenish. It's like hitting the reset button.
Yeah, exactly. It's like giving our focused attention muscles a chance to relax and recover.
That's a good analogy. So we have biophilia, we have RT,
Mm-hmm.
and then there's this other idea, this stress reduction theory.
Mm-hmm.
So how does nature play a role in stress? And how does that tie into thinking abilities?
Right. So the stress reduction theory focuses more on how our bodies respond to nature. The idea is that being in natural environments can lower our stress levels. And when we're less stressed, well, our cognitive functions tend to work more effectively.
Makes sense.
Yeah, so some studies have actually found links between exposure to green spaces
Mm-hmm.
and reductions in those physiological markers of stress. So things like heart rate, cortisol levels, that stress hormone. So by calming our bodies, nature creates a better state for our brains to function.
So all three of these ideas, whether it's our innate connection to nature, that
Yeah.
soft fascination, or that stress reduction, they kind of all point in the same direction, right? Nature might be helping our brains by just supporting our overall well-being.
Exactly.
All right, so this systematic review, they wanted to see if there's actually real evidence to support these ideas, specifically for those school-age kids, the 5 to 18-year-olds.
Yeah.
And they looked at a bunch of studies that used different kinds of nature-based activities or exposures in schools,
Mm-hmm.
and they looked at how those impacted different thinking skills.
Right.
So let's get to the heart of it. What did they find? Was there strong evidence that being around nature actually benefits kids' thinking?
Actually, yeah. The review, it looked at 12 studies.
Okay.
And they found that overall, there was substantial support for this idea that nature-based interventions have positive effects on cognitive functions
Interesting.
in those school-age children and adolescents. So the researchers specifically highlighted benefits for what we call selective attention, sustained attention.
So being able to stay focused?
Right, that's our ability to focus over time. And then also working memory, which is like our mental workspace.
Okay. So basically being able to hold information in your mind and work with it.
Exactly. And it's important to note that the quality of most of these studies was rated as either strong or moderate, which means, we can be fairly confident in the findings.
So it's not just like a fluke.
Right.
Okay, so those are some really crucial skills for learning and development. Let's break down attention specifically. What did the research tell us about how nature impacts, like the different types of attention?
Well, as we mentioned, the evidence was strongest for positive effects on several key aspects of attention. Selective attention,
Okay.
which is our ability to concentrate on what's important and filter out distractions.
Block out all that extra noise.
Right, that showed clear benefits. Sustained attention,
Okay.
our capacity to focus on a task for an extended period.
It's a hard one.
Yeah.
For sure.
That also appeared to be enhanced by nature exposure, and then working memory. That mental space where we hold and manipulate information, that also showed significant improvements in several studies.
So it's like nature's giving us a mental boost in all those areas.
Yeah, it seems that way.
Were there any particular studies that really stood out in showing these benefits?
Oh, absolutely. So let's take working memory as an example.
Okay.
There was this really interesting study in Rome with middle school students,
Okay.
and they found that just 30 minutes.
Wow, that's not that long.
No, not at all.
That's like a recess break.
Yeah, exactly.
Like that.
Of active play in a green school playground led to notable improvements in their working memory.
Interesting.
And then separately, there
Ah.
was a study with high schoolers in Illinois, and they found that just having a window view of a green landscape during a 10-minute rest period also had a positive impact on working memory.
Oh, wow. So you don't even have to be like actively in it.
No, it seems like just having that visual exposure can be enough.
Wow. That's amazing. So it's working both with active engagement, like playing,
Right.
and then just passive.
And across different age groups, too.
So it's pretty consistent
It seems to be, yeah.
that even brief encounters with nature can give that mental scratch pad a boost.
Yeah, a little refresh.
That's so cool. Okay, so we talked about working memory. What about selective and sustained attention? What kinds of tasks were they using in these studies to measure those?
Right. So several studies use these really interesting tasks to assess those aspects of attention. One common one is called the fish flanker task.
Okay.
It's kind of a funny name. But basically,
Well,
children have to identify the direction a central fish is swimming
okay.
while ignoring all these distracting fish around it.
Oh, that sounds tricky.
It is. It is. It requires a lot of focus.
Yeah.
And two studies that use this task found that a 30-minute walk in a natural environment with trees
Hmm.
improved both how quickly and how consistently the children responded on that task,
Oh, interesting.
which suggests better selective and sustained attention.
So they were both faster and more accurate.
Right.
Wow, that's impressive. Okay, so they were using this fish flanker task. Were there any other tasks that they were using?
Yeah, they used some other ones too. So there was one called the Bell's test,
Right.
where kids have to mark specific symbols amongst a whole page of distractions.
So it's kind of like a visual search.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then another one called the Necker-Cube pattern control task.
Ooh, that one sounds complicated.
It is. It requires a lot of focused visual attention.
Okay.
And these tasks also showed positive effects on attention control after exposure to natural environments. So like green schoolyards and things like that.
So again, it seems like just being in nature, or even just looking at nature, can really sharpen that focus and help tune out distractions.
Yeah, it seems to give us a boost in that area.
Okay, so it sounds like a pretty consistent picture for attention overall.
Yeah.
But were there any times where the findings weren't so clear-cut?
Yeah, while the general trend was positive, it's important to note that not all studies showed the same results across all types of attention tasks.
Yeah.
So there's some longer-term studies and even some short-term ones that used different measures of sustained and selective attention.
Okay.
Like there were two called the D2R and Sky Search tasks. They showed more mixed findings.
Oh, interesting.
So for example, some of these studies, they showed positive trends or significant effects,
Okay.
but only after a longer period of exposure to green spaces. So like a green schoolyard over 2 years.
So it took more time for the benefits to show up.
Right, while others didn't find an immediate effect
Okay.
after those short exposures. So like having plants in a classroom, for instance.
Gotcha. So maybe different types of attention skills are more or less sensitive to nature?
Yeah, it's possible.
Or maybe it just takes more time or a more immersive experience for those benefits to really kick in.
Right.
So it's not quite as simple as everyone gets the same benefits from the same amount of nature. It's more
Yeah.
nuanced than that.
Exactly.
Okay, that makes sense. So we've talked about attention. What about other thinking skills? What about impulse control? Our ability to, stop ourselves from doing something we shouldn't.
Right, right. So one study looked at impulse control specifically, and they used this task where children had to respond to certain signals,
Okay.
but not others, and they did this after they had playtime in a school garden. And interestingly, they didn't find any significant positive effect on impulse control.
Hmm. So nature might be great for focus and working memory,
Yeah.
but its impact on impulse control might not be as direct, or maybe it requires different kinds of interactions with nature?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, interesting. What about processing speed? How quickly we can take in information and react to it? That's also pretty important for learning.
Yeah, absolutely. So the findings for processing speed were also somewhat varied, particularly in those longer-term studies. So one study looked at the impact of a green wall in a classroom,
Okay.
and they didn't find any significant effect on processing speed. However, another study that tracked the effects of greening an entire schoolyard over 2 years.
So a much bigger intervention.
Right.
Yeah.
They actually did report a positive impact on processing speed.
Interesting. So again, maybe those bigger, more long-lasting interventions are needed to see those benefits in processing speed.
It's possible.
Okay. So we're seeing some links between nature and attention, working memory, potentially processing speed with longer exposure. What about long-term memory? How well kids learn and actually remember information over time.
Right. So the review included 2 studies that looked at this,
Okay.
and they offered some really interesting insights. One study found that school gardens were actually a valuable tool for boosting children's understanding of science, especially topics related to plants and nutrition.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You're learning about it while you're doing
Yes,
it.
exactly.
Okay.
And what was really interesting was that the more involved the children were in the gardening activities, the greater the benefit to their science knowledge. So the higher the dosage of the intervention.
Okay. So it's not just having a garden there. It's about actually getting your hands dirty,
Right.
participating.
Exactly. That hands-on experience seems to be really key.
That makes sense. What about that other study on long-term memory? What did they find?
So the other study compared learning biology outdoors versus indoors for high school students.
Okay.
And they found that seventh graders who learned outdoors showed better long-term retention of biology concepts compared to their peers who learned in the classroom.
So learning in nature actually helped them remember the information better.
Yeah, for the seventh graders at least,
Right.
because, interestingly, they didn't see the same effect for eighth graders.
Oh, that is interesting. So there's like an age component there.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
And what's also interesting is that when the researchers talked to the students, the seventh graders who learned outdoors, they reported much more vivid memories of the learning activities. So it suggests a stronger level of engagement.
Like it was more memorable.
Yeah, an emotional connection to the material.
That makes sense.
So it seems like learning in natural settings can be really effective for knowledge acquisition, but the impact might differ depending on the age group and maybe the specific subject matter.
Right, right. So nature's not like this magic bullet that's going to work for everything in the same way.
Right.
But there's definitely something there.
Definitely.
It's fascinating to see how it plays out. Okay, so we talked about the theories earlier,
Yeah.
like biophilia, RT, stress reduction theory. Did the studies actually find any evidence to support these ideas?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Several studies actually provided findings that really align with those theoretical frameworks.
Okay, cool.
So, for example, some studies used questionnaires that asked children how restorative they found different environments. And they consistently found that children rated natural environments as more restorative compared to built environments like classrooms. So that provides direct support for the attention restoration theory. Right?
Yeah, it's like that break from the hustle and bustle actually helps restore your attention.
Exactly.
That's awesome. What about that soft fascination idea in art? Was there any evidence for that?
Yeah, there was actually this one really cool study. They used mobile eye tracking technology
Wow.
to see where children's gaze was directed during walks in both natural and urban environments.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah, and they found that children had higher rates of eye gazing in nature. So their attention was more drawn to the elements of the natural environment in a less forced, more kind of exploratory way.
So they were naturally curious
Right.
and drawn to those things.
Exactly, which aligns with that concept of soft fascination.
Yeah. So like your eyes are just naturally drawn to a pretty flower
Yeah.
or like an interesting tree.
Yeah, instead of having to force your attention
Exactly.
onto something.
Cool. Okay, so we've got some evidence for attention restoration theory. What about the stress reduction theory? Did any of the studies find that direct link between being in nature and lower stress levels?
So there's one study that examined the impact of having a green view
Oh,
on working memory, and they also measured stress levels.
Huh.
But they didn't find a direct correlation between changes in attention and stress in this particular study,
interesting.
which suggests that nature might have a more direct impact on working memory in this case,
Right.
rather than just working through stress reduction. However, another study compared breaks taken in green parks versus urban parks,
Okay.
and they found that time spent in green spaces led to better cognitive performance and improvements in several psychological measures related to like feeling recovered, mood, and a sense of being ready for action.
So it seems like that one does support a link
Yeah,
between nature and stress reduction.
it does. And it could be that the relationship's complex
Right.
and nature potentially benefits cognition through multiple pathways.
So it's not just one thing, it's probably a bunch of things all working together.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. We also talked about the social aspect, like the biophilia hypothesis, that connection to nature. Did any of these studies look at how social interactions in nature might be part of these benefits?
Yeah, actually, one study found that spending time in a natural environment was particularly restorative for adolescents
Okay.
when they were with their friends.
Oh, so being in nature with your buddies
Exactly.
is even better.
Yeah, and they also observed a link between being in nature and experiencing more positive emotions. So this supports the idea that nature can be inherently pleasing
Yeah, it just makes you feel good.
and that positive social experiences in those natural settings can actually amplify the restorative effects.
Like it just adds to the whole experience.
Right. And then additionally, there was a longer-term study that looked at the impact of green schoolyards, and they found that they seem to have a positive influence on children's social well-being over time.
So it's not just the green itself.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how that green space can actually make those social interactions even better.
Yeah, it's like a catalyst for positive social experiences.
Right. Very cool. Okay, so we've talked about the questionnaires, the eye tracking.
Mhm.
Was there anything else, any other like physiological measures that might support that stress reduction theory beyond just like, self-reported stress levels.
Right. So one study actually measured what's called tonic vagal tone.
Okay. And what is that exactly?
So it's an indicator of the body's ability to regulate stress
Okay.
and promote a state of calmness. So like how well your body can kind of chill out, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay.
And they found that tonic vagal tone was higher in natural environments compared to indoor classrooms.
Okay.
And this is interesting because they didn't actually see a direct improvement in attention on the specific cognitive tests they used in that particular short-term setting. So this suggests that even if we don't see immediate cognitive improvements
On every single test.
yeah, in every situation, being in nature might still be having this calming and regulating effect on the body.
Okay.
And that could have longer-term benefits
Yeah.
for both cognitive function and well-being.
Right. So it's like nature's working behind the scenes
Yeah,
to kind of help us out in the long run.
exactly.
That's really neat. Okay, so the review also considered whether the age of the kids made a difference in how they benefited from nature.
Yeah.
What did they find there?
So overall, the review indicated that nature exposure seems to be beneficial across all the age ranges studied, from elementary school through high school.
Okay.
But there were some interesting differences. They found more consistent benefits for attentional functioning in high school students across various types of nature interventions. So whether it was looking at a green view, taking a walk in a park, or playing outdoors, the older adolescents seem to show more reliable improvements in things like working memory
And sustained attention.
and sustained attention. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe as their cognitive systems get more developed,
It's possible, yeah.
they're just better able to use those benefits of nature. Or maybe the types of tests they were using were just better at picking up those changes in that age group.
Yeah, that could be it too.
What about younger children?
Right. So for younger children, the studies also showed benefits for working memory and selective and sustained attention after spending time in nature.
Okay.
But the researchers pointed out that the findings weren't quite as consistent as with the older adolescents.
Gotcha.
And they highlighted the need for more research specifically focusing on those early elementary school years.
Yeah, we always need more research,
Always.
especially with kids. It's really tricky, but yeah.
And when it came to long-term knowledge acquisition, the results were mixed across age groups, with that one study showing outdoor learning benefits for 7th graders, but not 8th graders,
Right?
and another finding school gardens helpful for science knowledge in a broader age range,
Yeah.
6 to 12-year-olds. So it seems like the specific ways nature's benefits kind of manifest might have some age-related nuances.
Right, so benefits across the board, but the details might change a little bit.
Yeah, the devil's in the details, as they say.
Okay, so the review also looked at how the duration of exposure mattered. Were short bursts of nature as effective as longer periods?
So they actually found that shorter periods of nature exposure, ranging from just a few minutes up to about an hour, were the most consistent in showing positive effects on attention.
Interesting.
And several studies that involved 20 to 30-minute nature breaks reported improvements in areas like selective attention, working memory, and the ability to concentrate.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's encouraging because it suggests that even relatively brief encounters with nature can have a noticeable cognitive impact.
And that's great news for those of us with busy schedules.
Right.
Like you don't have to go on a week-long camping trip
Yeah.
to get some benefit. What about those longer-term exposures, the ones that lasted months or even years?
Right. So the longer-term studies, while they also showed some positive effects, they tended to have more mixed results,
Okay.
both for attention and for knowledge acquisition. And this could be because it becomes more difficult in these longer studies to really isolate the specific impact of nature.
Right, because there's so many other things going on
Exactly.
over that time period.
Yeah, from all those other factors that can influence a child's development and learning over time. However, some studies did show significant benefits after longer exposure to green schoolyards, for instance, in areas like sustained attention and processing speed. So it seems like while short bursts offer those more immediate benefit, more sustained contact might be needed for broader cognitive gains.
Yeah, so it's like short bursts are good, but if you really want to see those bigger, longer-term changes, maybe you need more of that consistent exposure.
Right.
Okay. And then finally, the review touched on whether it mattered if the kids were actively engaging with nature or just, being present in a natural setting.
Yeah.
What did they find there?
Right. So the researchers noted that most of the studies they looked at actually involved more passive exposure to nature,
Okay.
where nature kind of served as a backdrop for another activity.
Like walking or playing.
Yeah, exactly. But there were also studies that involved more active engagement, such as gardening or participating in structured nature walks.
Okay.
And these also showed positive cognitive benefits.
Interesting. So both seem to have an impact.
They do. And the review suggests that the type of engagement might actually influence the underlying mechanisms at play. Like perhaps active engagement has a stronger impact on learning and memory through that direct experience.
Makes sense.
But more research is needed to really understand those distinctions.
Right. So to bring it all together for everyone listening, it really does seem like being around nature is this surprisingly powerful and readily accessible way to support and enhance crucial cognitive functions in kids and teens. Things like their ability to focus,
Yeah.
remember information, and learn.
Absolutely.
And it seems like both those short, quick doses of nature and that more sustained contact can be beneficial. Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, some of the really eye-opening moments in this review were like realizing the potential cognitive boost from something as simple as having a view of greenery from a window.
Yeah, I was surprised by that too.
Or taking short breaks outdoors. It just really highlights how integrated nature could be in our learning and living environments.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. But it's also important to remember that this is an active area of research. There's still some stuff to figure out, some inconsistencies in the findings,
Yeah.
particularly when we look at the long-term effects.
Yeah.
And try to really pinpoint those exact reasons why nature has these benefits.
Absolutely. And this prompts us to consider, given what we've learned, how might we kind of creatively reimagine our learning spaces, our daily routines, and even our urban planning to more intentionally bring those cognitive advantages of the natural world into the lives of young people?
Yeah.
Even those small everyday opportunities to connect with nature could have a significant positive impact on their development and well-being. So it's a really compelling area to think about and explore.
I love that. It's such a thought-provoking point. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
Of course, it was my pleasure.
We catch you next time.
See ya.